give a huge, amazing, Wealth Chef, Thriving Life welcome. Hit that emoji board, light it up for the amazing Shaa Wasmund. Woo! Shaa, those are all people hitting our dashboard, getting those up for massive love for Shaa. It's so wonderful to see my gorgeous friend.
Guys.
So how many of you have had the privilege of seeing Shaa before? Do you know of Shaa? Looks like we've got a whole lot of Shaa virgins. Oh, you are in for a surprise. Some people know you. Now, Shaa is, so, it was quite funny. One of my team said, I'm a little bit afraid of Shaa. I said, I'm a lot afraid of Shaa. Because that is what's so fantastic. Because Shaa kicks ass in the most juiciest, fantastic way. And you know, we haven't managed to see each other for quite a few years. COVID hit and journey, and Shaa is joining us all the way from the UK. Woo! Thank you.
Hi, guys. And there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of.
Not at all. And this is a woman that I am so grateful that I have in my life. And although we haven't seen each other physically for quite a few years, we're going to make a change there. We're going to get Shaa to the bush elsewhere. But, you know, in your life, when we lie there at 3 a.m. and we say, if the shit really had to hit the fan, oh, I'm getting emotional.
I'd be there. I'd be there.
Yeah. Who are those people in your life that you know, no matter what, would show up? And this is part of the, you know, the integrity, the commitment. This is part of our associations. Who do you have in your life that you know, no matter what, would be there? I would be there for Shaa. She would be with me. But this is also who Shaa is. Shaa shows up for the people in her life. She shows up for life in the most extraordinary way. There's so much I could introduce you about Shaa. We've got a fantastic blurb about her in the workbook. You don't get an MBE for nothing. Shaa is a liberator, an inspirer. And Shaa, I'm going to hand over to you and thank you, amazing woman, for, yes, the hard stuff and easy life. I love that book behind you. And she's going to help you get out of your own way so that you can start doing big. Oh, it's Shaa.
All right, guys, I am very, very happy to be here. So I want to share some things with you before we start that I just picked up on, because I've been in the background for a little bit. And oh my God, there's 2 of me on screen. God help you. That's hilarious. Yeah, you're in real trouble now. You got 2 of me. So the first thing I want to say is I'm going to try my best to be conscious of time, because I could talk for Queen and Country for the rest of the day. I love the exercise when you guys were asked what you know, what does the rest of your life look like? What are the things that you want to do? How long does that look like for you? Because I wanted to share something with you, very personal. But my grandma, my nan, she turned 100. So actually 100 on Tuesday, and she had her letter from the king, and she had all of the things. And what I want to share with you is that somebody who has lived through world wars and absolute abject poverty, who, you know, a little bit of a backstory to me. I grew up in a hostel for homeless families, and we were then rehoused onto a council estate. My nan lived on a council estate for most of her life, and no matter how little she had, she always found a way to find. And I do believe that today, sometimes some of us get lost in thinking it is solely monetary purposes and material things, when actually I believe, having seen this firsthand of somebody who is 100, she's been very fortunate. She actually didn't get old until she was 96. At 96, she was still getting on buses by herself with just a tiny little walking stick, nothing else, and getting on 20-minute bus journeys to go shopping all by herself. That's wealth. I tell you what else is wealth, is being surrounded by love and family, knowing that you have spent a life well lived and incredibly well loved. So as we are all on here today and we are thinking about these big, expansive ideas about who we are and how we want to spend the rest of our lives, I think that it is just so important to actually realize that as technology changes, as you know, medical advancements changes, I actually think that we live in this really interesting, maybe interest is not the right word, but this dichotomy between, on the one hand, we seem to be getting more diseases than ever before, environmental, the food that we eat, processed foods, all of that. But then on the other hand, we have all these medical advances that actually are helping us to live longer. So the truth is, all those ages that you put in there, the likelihood is that almost all of us will get to beyond 80. And I actually think that many of us will get to 100. So for me, the really big question is, what does the rest of that look like? And I know that one of the things that Anne has asked me to speak about, and I just want to give a little bit of context to you guys for who I am and what I do, so that you can maybe we've got some time, you can ask me some specific questions that I might be able to help you with personally. So, you know, coming from the background that I came from, very often your stall is set out for you. How many of you have come from similar backgrounds where you grew up in poverty, and if we were being honest, you're kind of like what was going to happen to your life was set before you, because you didn't have any money, you didn't have mentors around you, you didn't have any role models, you didn't have anybody who could show you a different path. And so for me, the best path that I could find was that, you know, to go to university and get a quote unquote good job. And I ended up taking an incredibly different path to that. And I did go to university. I'm very fortunate. I actually got a scholarship to the London School of Economics. I'm very grateful that despite my challenging upbringing, I had an incredible mother who always drummed into me that anything and everything was possible, which is absolutely still what I believe today. And I started working with the then super middleweight boxing champion Chris Eubank Sr., which is not what A, you'd expect a woman to do, or B, what you'd expect somebody studying economics at LSE to do. And the rest of my career pretty much reflected that. I had how many of you have a Dyson product in your house, a Dyson hairdryer, a Dyson vacuum cleaner? Or how many of you have been into a restaurant and used the Dyson hand dryers in the bathrooms? Well, I actually started my career after Chris retired around a kitchen table with Sir James Dyson in his home. That's how early I started working with him. We didn't even have an office. We literally sat around a table like this in his home. And I worked with James for 5 years, and I went to Australia and I went to America, and I set Dyson up in both of those countries. And so I feel like I have been in this very fortunate position where I've taken a lot of chances. And I honestly believe that part of the reason why I've been able to have these opportunities is because I wasn't afraid of taking the chances. And the reason I wasn't afraid of taking the chances was because of where I came from. I had nothing to lose, right? I had nothing to lose. And so my mom always used to say to me, she said, Shaa, as you go through life, I never ever want you to live your life by other people's limitations. And I really want to start with that with all of you today, because I would argue that almost all of us have, to a larger or lesser degree, lived our lives by other people's limitations, whether it was our parents, our siblings, our friends, our partners. People have our ideas for us, ideas about who we should be, ideas about what we should do, ideas about what we're capable of. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, we spend a lot of our lives actually trying to live within their limitations, as opposed to thinking about what's actually possible for us. And so I'm very fortunate that my mum set that in stone in my brain from very, very young. And I just wasn't afraid of anything. And the reason I wasn't afraid was because she said, no matter what you do in life, no matter what goes right and what goes wrong, you're never going to end up back here. And that point, we were living in a hostel. We were in a tiny room with my mom and my brother, who's 7 years younger than me, and we shared a bathroom and a kitchen with 5 other families who were also homeless. And so when you come from that kind of abject poverty from the beginning, you're never going to go back there, no matter what mistakes you make. And what I find today, my son's 19, what I find today, my biggest challenge is trying to find a balance between wanting to give my son all the things that I didn't have, but at the same time wanting him to have the drive and the hustle and the resilience that I had. And this is a challenge that I think, you know, most of us parents will come across if we come from similar backgrounds. So I'd love to know a little bit more about you guys in the chat. Can you, I'm going to just pull my chat up. Can you all tell me, all of you, every single one of you, I'm a very fast reader. So I want to know, what do you all do? I want to know. Say, tell me what your name is. So Rachel Brown, I can see you. Say, hi, I'm Rachel. Tell me what you do. So Gareth, you're a teacher. Got that. Gareth got in first. Program manager Daryl, Joy's a teacher, community activist, accountant, investor, engineer, project manager, claims manager. Awesome. Okay, keep them coming. I'll keep reading them. And the reason I ask these questions is because I love the fact that when you're in a community like this, and Anne is very good at bringing together great people and great communities, and I've always said that, you know, when I do get to the point that I leave this world, actually what I want on my tombstone is actually that I was the best 3 a.m. friend anyone could ask for. That's actually how I judge myself. How I judge myself is how I show up for other people. And actually it's how I judge other people. I don't judge them by how much they earn or what they do. I judge them by how do they show up for the people that they care about. Yeah, that is definitely my thing, is showing up for other people. And what I love about what Anne has always done and what she's always been is an incredible ability to bring diverse people together. And that's from different backgrounds, different countries, different industries. This to me is what it's all about. And I know that you understand this because you guys are all here. But for me, the one thing that has always helped me the most in terms of leveling up my business or leveling up any aspect of my life is the people that I surround myself with, is making sure that throughout my whole journey, even from the very beginning, investing wherever possible what I could into personal development, business development, coaching, mentoring. And it's interesting because at 18 I had no money, so I couldn't afford a coach or mentor, but I could afford a book, right? Which is why I'm a big fan of writing books. I've written 5 books now. I've sold over 500,000 copies of my books. I've had a Sunday Times bestseller. And for me, what I love about writing books is they give people the opportunity to learn from you, to experience you, for you to help them at a really easy entry point. And I think that the fact that you guys have taken your Saturday to show up here today, for me, says a lot about where you want to go. So what I want to do is deliver as much value as I can in today's session and really drive home some frameworks and some ways that I choose to live my life that I hope you can replicate and copy, that will make things easier or more helpful for you. But before I do that, what I would love to know, and if you guys will give me a minute to read, because I do want to read this, I would love you to all tell me, what is your one biggest challenge right now? So you can tell me, it could be a personal challenge, it could be a business challenge, it could be a career challenge, it could be anything. Okay, time, financial freedom, visibility, debt, money, deciding where in the world to live. Keep coming. I want all of you to tell me. Moving forward, financial freedom. And I'm going to go back and read through these, okay? So just bear with me. I'm making some notes because I want to make sure that what I give you guys today, I had one holding slide, and my holding slide was really, really simple. It just told you that we have to stop doing all the things and we have to start doing the right things. But I want to make this interactive, and I'm not going to just bring up some slide deck that I'm going to run through. I'm going to make this about you guys. So, okay. So for those of you who are telling me time is your biggest challenge right now, and I've got financial freedom is another key one, but I'm going to keep going through them. Those of you who are telling me time is your biggest challenge, why do you think you don't have enough time right now? Tell me, please. Oh, Jennifer Jones, spending time on many, many projects and not enough on your own stuff. Okay, I totally get that, which is why I say you've got to stop doing all the things and we've got to start doing the right things. Okay, I'm going to keep reading them. Financially free, find fulfillment, time. Okay. Okay, scared to start. I'm just making note of these as I'm going through them. Consistency. Oh, consistency is such a thing. It's one of the things I'm going to teach you today. Okay. All right. Fear of judgment. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Procrastination. Uh, guys, I'm just going to go grab something. Don't go anywhere. It's going to take me like 10 seconds. Nothing's happened. I'm still here. I do want to show you something. All right, I'm coming. Okay, I just need to go and get these. These are my books, right? And it's so funny what we're all talking about because these are the themes of my books. So my very first book, Stop Talking, Start Doing, is all about procrastination. It had its 10th anniversary last year. We've sold so many copies of this. Do Less, Get More is actually, if you're going to buy one of my books, buy this one. It's my favorite book, Do Less, Get More. So this is all about saying no to things so you can say yes to the things that actually matter. And finally, who doesn't need to fix their shit? Because we've all got shit that we need to fix, right? So I share this with you just to show you that these are such common themes for all of us. Right. Here are my key ones that I've got written down that I think are the main key points for you guys. It is time, financial freedom, feeling stuck, not knowing what your next step is, scared to take action, stroke, fear of judgment, consistency. Does that sound about right? Give me some thumbs up if all of those ones sound about right. Okay, let's unpack these in no particular order. I'm going to start with how I overcome these things. The first thing I would love you to really work on is to become self-aware. And I want to tell you what I mean by this. This book, Stop Talking, Start Doing, is all about procrastination. So you may think that I'm a productivity expert, but the reality is I'm a self-aware expert who knows that when I start to self-sabotage, procrastination is my choice, right? So when we become self-aware, what happens is we get really honest with ourselves. You don't have to be honest with anyone else on here, but you do have to be honest with yourself. So I want you to think for a second and then tell me in the chat, when you start to self-sabotage, what do you do? So when I start to self-sabotage, I know that I procrastinate. So now what happens is when I start to procrastinate, I now know it's not just procrastination, I'm actually self-sabotaging. So when I start to see myself procrastinating, I stop and I take a step back and I go, okay, Shaa, what is it that you are trying to F up right now? Because when you procrastinate, you are self-sabotaging. So the moment that we start to become self-aware of what we do, what are our triggers, what are our habits when we start to self-sabotage, right? So some of us will start eating rubbish food. Some of us will stop going to the gym. Some of us will start drinking. Some of us will procrastinate. Some of us will actually stop speaking to people, right? When we start self-sabotage, we'll withdraw from everyone. So what I want you to do is don't tell yourself off for all of these things, because we're all human and we all have shit that we have to deal with. The most important step is to become self-aware so that you see when you're doing these things. And instead of berating yourself for procrastinating or not going to the gym or not calling your friends back, go, hold up a second. No, like this you're self-sabotaging again. Right, what is this really about? Because it's not about the procrastination or calling people back or not going to the gym. It's about you having to get out of your own way and really start to understand the triggers that you have to actually then stop doing these things. So I'm going to read what you guys do. Okay. Doubt myself, ignore the problem, procrastinate. Perfectionism and procrastination, ironically, are almost two sides of the same thing. Stall and do nothing, doubt my capabilities, stop looking after myself, withdraw, mindless scrolling, anything but deal with what I'm avoiding. So procrastination is such a high one, right? I'm going to read this one out, Kerry. I look online to see people who are already doing the business I am interested in and then tell myself I'm not as good as them. Kerry, we also have to remember that all of us only post our highlights. the reality behind what's happening, even the people who you think are succeeding, trust me, because Anne and I know all of them personally, what's actually happening behind closed doors is not exactly the same as what you see online, okay? So withdraw, silence, ignore, do something more fun, procrastinate. All right, so this is the first thing I want to share with you in terms of my frameworks for success at any point in your life is, number one, you start to become self-aware of what you're sabotage. And you do this so that when you start that behavior, rather than telling yourself off and making yourself worse, you just go, okay, I see you. I see what's happening here, because that is the first step to being able to address it. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is, and this is going to help you, whether it's your time, whether it's money, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. This one thing is so boring. I remember one of the best things I heard Anne talk about once when she was talking about money was talking about how boring is sexy, right? How doing the boring things is actually sexy because it's the boring things that create consistency. All right, so consistency is the next thing. And I want to show you what that looks like in your life and in my life. And I want to be very clear that I still struggle with it, and you may still struggle with it, but that's it. Boring is beautiful. When you have consistency, let's take with our health and our fitness. When you have consistency, what happens is you wake up, all your clothes are already set out from the night before to go to the gym. You put your clothes on, you just go to the gym. You get yourself into a habit, right? The consistency of doing something. For those of you who want to show up more online, it's not enough to show up and grow an audience just by showing up once a day or once a week. You have to show up consistently. You can't show up today and then not show up for another month. If you want to sort your finances out, you can't invest £100 today and then not invest for another year and think that that's going to make a difference. It's consistency. Consistency is like compound interest. It's the thing that the more you do it, the more powerful it becomes. And by the way, consistency applies to everything. It applies to your fitness. It applies to your finances. It applies to your business. It applies to growing your audience. But it also applies to your personal life, right? The consistency of reaching out to people that you care about. The consistency of learning how to say no to things that you don't want to do so that you can say yes to spending the time with the people that you do want to spend your time with. Consistency, it seems so simple, but it's actually very difficult, right? Because one thing that I know for sure is that discipline dominates motivation. All right, I want you to write that down. Discipline dominates motivation. Motivation is when we're here, like we're here today. We're amongst other people who are driven and want to do things, and we feel that sense of anything is possible because we're surrounded by like-minded people. So now we're motivated to take action. Discipline is when you still do the thing that you want to do even when you don't feel like doing it, right? That's discipline. And discipline and consistency go hand in hand. So you need the discipline to keep showing up to sessions like this. You need the discipline to keep being consistent, to create financial freedom. You need the discipline to focus on your health. You need the discipline way more than you need the motivation, because motivation is passing. And when we have it, it feels fantastic. But the truth is, when we're motivated, it's easy, right? We can all do things when we're motivated. The key is to keep doing those things when we don't feel motivated, but we know we still want to achieve the result, right? So I don't want to teach you anything that's super, super complicated. I just want to share with you the simple things that for me really, really work. The next one is community. Community is, for me, the life force that I can tap into, or that you can tap into, especially when we're not feeling motivated, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed, especially when we're not sure what the next step is. So community can, and you can have different communities in your life, right? It's not like we have this just one simple single community. You need a community of like-minded people like you have on this call today. You need a community of people like Anne has in all of her programs, where they're going to, have you all heard I'm sure it's not just the British saying, a rising tide lifts all ships. Have you heard that saying? Yeah, great. I truly believe that, because if you are surrounded by people who all have the same ethos and the same morals and the values that everybody wants to drive forward, then what happens is that rising tide lifts everybody up with you. But if I asked you, how many of you could think of somebody who has the opposite energy in your life, that's a drain, that every time you spend time with them, you just think, oh my God, it's just exhausting. And sometimes these people are your family, and that makes it very difficult. So what I want you to do is protect your energy. And you can't necessarily simply cut everybody off. But one of the best ways to protect your energy is to, if you imagine it as like some scales, right? So you have some people in your life, some environments, some situations that are going to drain your energy. Some of them you can get rid of. And by the way, if you can get rid of them, just go get rid of them, because they're not serving you. But if you can't get rid of them and you have to find a way to work around them, the way that you make it work is on the other scale, you fill that with people and things and environments that bring you a positive energy, that lift you up, places where you can go and ask questions when you don't know how to do something, when you feel stuck with something, whatever it is, there is a place for you to go and not feel stuck and alone. So for me, whether it's growing businesses, and I'm very fortunate. I've gone from living in a hostel for homeless families to creating generational wealth for the next 2 generations. I've sold 2 businesses. I sold my first business when I was 27, and I have been able to do so many things that I love, to do the work that I love with the people that I love. I've been able to do, I've had an idea, I want to go do this, and I go and do it, and it doesn't always work. Of course it doesn't always work. I'm not some magician. Lots of things don't work, right? But I feel like that's part of the journey. So I want to go write a book, and I'll go write a book. And for me, writing books has been probably the single biggest thing. For those of you who said, you're scared to start, or you just feel stuck, for me, trying to stand out, writing books were a game changer, because what they did for me is they allow me to raise my profile and my positioning as an expert in a way that nothing else has ever been able to do. So instead of trying to chase getting onto podcasts or trying to chase growing my audience, it happened naturally because my books were this massive door opener. But, when I was at school, I didn't think to myself, oh, I'm going to go be a journalist or an author. And I think that we get locked into these very old-fashioned ways of looking at what's possible for us. And how many of us, if we're being honest, grew up thinking that once you reached a certain age, you couldn't go and take a new career path, right? Like whether that was 40 or 50, let's be honest, especially the women. Guys, by the way, being pro-female does not make me anti-male. I just want that to be really clear, because I've actually spent most of my career working with alpha males, and I have had probably so much support from men in my career. I couldn't have done what I've done without them. But the truth is that more often than not, women carry more of the mental load. More often than not, women are judged in the workplace and across the board by their age. And so I think that what's happened is that we have been brought up to believe that if you haven't done it by the time you're 40, you're screwed, forget it. And yet, if we're going to live another 60 years until we're 100, so what are we going to do for those next 60 years? Just buy into this bullshit? I would suggest that what we should do instead is look at the latest research. The fastest growing group of entrepreneurs are women over the age of 40. The fastest growing group of the most successful entrepreneurs are actually women over the age of 50. And I think that men don't come far behind that, but actually women are just kind of nudging them. And let me tell you why I think this is so important, not on the gender piece, but actually on the age piece. Because here's the reality. When you get to a certain place in your life, whether it's 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, here's what's happened. Number one, you don't tolerate bullshit anymore, right? You don't really care about judgment the same way that you used to. Number two, you know exactly who you are and you're far more comfortable in your own skin. It doesn't mean you think you're perfect. It doesn't mean there's not things you want to work on or iron out, but actually you're much more comfortable in your own skin. Number three, you have probably had more than one career. So you've built relationships, you've had experiences, you've got a network, you've done amazing things, and you've probably had some shit shows too. But what happens when you get to this point is you're able to bring all of this to bear to the next thing. So you're far less likely to make mistakes because you've already made them previously. And you're far more likely to be able to launch something successfully because you've got more experience, you've got more connections, you've got more of a network. So is it actually really a surprise that this is your prime? I want you to all understand this. This is your prime. We are at a point in 2025 when we have everything available to us to live a long and strong, not just long, but a long and strong life. And if we're going to live a long and strong life, we might as well live a long and strong life that is financially free as well. And you have everything at your disposal between technology and your experiences and your network and all of it to make this time that you have right here, right now, the absolute best time to go and create whatever it is that you want to create in your life. And so what I would share with you, and then if we've got time, love to take some questions. Let me know in the chat if we've got time to take some questions. What I just want to share with you is a really simple recap. The first thing I want you to do is get really self-aware of how you sabotage. There'll be one thing above everything that you do. Me, I procrastinate. Once you now know this, you are going to be able to see it coming and stop it in its tracks. Number two, I want you to start to be really consistent with the things that matter. So if you're trying to grow a business and you want to grow your audience, I want you to be consistent with showing up. If you're trying to improve your health, I want you to be consistent. Don't leave it to chance. Let me tell you the difference between being consistent and leaving it to chance. I say I want to get healthy. Being consistent is doing meal prep for the whole week. Leaving it to chance is waking up on a Monday going, oh, I want to be healthy. What am I going to eat? Oh, I don't think I've got anything in my fridge. Okay, well, I'm hungry, so I'm just going to go and take whatever's there. Your mind might be telling you that you want to make this improvement, but you're not following it through with your actions. So I want your actions to be consistent. I want your action to support what you want to achieve, not derail them. And then finally, I want you to really embrace the importance of being in communities like this, because when you are, I don't know about you, but I would say at least 80% of the people that I work with would tell me that they don't necessarily have an immediate friendship group who gets them, who understands them. They don't necessarily have a family that understands that they have different motivations, that they have different inspirations to maybe the rest of the family. And so what tends to happen is it can feel quite lonely. And so the importance of having a community where you're not the odd one out, where actually other people are just like you, and the chances are more likely than not, 9 out of 10 times, whatever you're going through, somebody else in the group has already gone through it and can help you navigate whatever the situation is so that you get through it a lot quicker. There is so much power in community. There is so much power in consistency, but it all starts with being self-aware. So I hope that has been useful for you guys.
Hey, am I on? Am I back on? Yes.
You are.
Shaa, thank you, my darling. Oh, how amazing is this woman? And it just, well, there's 2 questions I have, and then we're going to have some questions for Shaa, and we do have time. Because
Great.
you do get shit done. You create, but also, you know, this reinvention I love. You know, this, I think we can all get so stuck in our identity. I am this, I am that. And whilst we've got all of these skills, equally they're the same resources that can take us forward. Or what happened for me when I wanted to start the Wealth Chef, I'd had this 20-something odd years career in engineering. I'd built amazing stuff all over the world, project management, managing teams. Yet I suddenly thought that I was starting from scratch, that I sort of threw the baby out with the bathwater, as though I had nothing to bring with me, because I was so limited in box-like thinking that those skills went there versus these skills went here. And yet you have such this beautiful ability to bring this whole ecosystem of your wealthy life together, from, kick-ass, first woman boxing manager, helping entrepreneurs around the world, getting your MBE, multiple author, online businesses, creating all sorts of things. How have you managed to keep your identity malleable and not get hooked into this fixed identity of I am this?
It's a great question. And I would say that, thanks. I would say, I just strive to show up every day as myself and not worry about what other people think, because, that saying, the people that mind don't matter and the people that matter don't mind, or, if I was always worried about what people would think about me, I would have stayed stuck in one thing. Because what I would have thought was, oh, people are going to think I'm flighty. They're going to think, oh, why has she gone from doing that to doing this? Whereas actually, it's so funny. We're in this world now where AI is going to take over so many things. It's going to change the entire face of everything, education, everything. So this thought process that we have one career for the rest of our lives is incredibly outdated. Whereas what I think is, the one thing that I bring that's always the same is me, right? I'm the consistent, I'm the constant, I'm always me. And as long as I can always be me, then actually I have a very, very strong thread through everything that I do. And I'm never afraid to close things down either. Like, there was one time when I was running a 7-figure coaching program and I just didn't enjoy doing it anymore. I woke up one day and I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to close it down. And so many people were trying to tell me, don't do that. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any financial sense. I said, it doesn't make any financial sense. That is correct. And I've worked very hard to be able to make decisions that don't make financial sense, but make a lot of sense for my soul. And I knew that I could go and make that revenue in other ways, but what was really important to me, and what has always been important to me actually, is I just want to do work that I love. So if I stop loving it, I'm going to stop doing it. And for me, that's always been my guiding light. And do I love doing it? Yes, keep doing it. Have I fallen out of love with it? Here's what I do. I give myself 90 days. And I say to myself, and this is another thing about being self-aware, right? I really work hard on being self-aware. So sometimes I can feel like I've fallen out of love with something, but the truth is I'm just tired and cranky. And if I have, some sleep and, get back on it, I fall back in love with it. But I just have a simple rule. If I still feel exactly the same way in 90 days, I just shut it down and I go do something else.
I love that, because I think, Shaa, what ends up happening for many of us, in our investment world, it's called the sunk cost fallacy. We can have this solution, but I've invested all this time, energy, and money into it. People do it in their relationships. But I've been in this relationship for 10 years. I know it's shit and crappy, but maybe they'll still change. And so we lug around this shit that isn't serving us. They're not working. Your money's not working. Your relationship's not working. Because this story about loss, that if we close that door, that somehow that's failure, but actually that liberation of the time, money, and energy, when we truly go, what is the cost of holding on to this thing that is not performing, this relationship that's not doing, when we go forward and go, well, fuck, another 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I love it. The power of also ending. And I think to also know, it doesn't mean it wasn't right. Right. No.
But it doesn't. It doesn't. It can mean that it was absolutely right at the time that it was right. And I think this point of the sunk cost is so relevant, both in investing, in business, and in your relationships, right? And I look at it slightly differently. I think about it as, is this a dip or a dead end? And so a dip is where we go through a little dip, a lull period, and then we come back out the other side. And relationships will go through dips. Your friendships will go through dips. Your business will go through dips. A dead end is kind of like you're on this path and you've seen the signs, and the signs all tell you it's a dead end. It looks like a dead end. It smells like a dead end. It feels like a dead end. And the signs are everywhere that it's a dead end. But for some damn reason, you decide to ignore all the signs and keep on walking. That, my friend, is when you have to go, do you know what? I'm not prepared to waste any more money, any more time, any more energy, any more love walking down a dead end road. I've come this far. I'll accept it, but now's the time to turn around and find another path.
Oh, hell yes. Because also I think what happens, and we've seen for many people in business, they go, oh no, I know it needs to end, but I want to try and recover some of my losses. And this sneaky thing of the ego going, no, you don't have to walk back all the steps that you've come. Just fucking step off it. Move on, let it go, free up that energy, time, and money is so key. So what to say no to? Now, Shaa, you speak about where you've come from, where you are. You're inspiring in so many ways, but it hasn't always been easy. Life has thrown you some really big hurdles. Shaa's partner, the father of her son, died, and Shaa was left with a young kid. How old was Jed?
Jet was 3.5 at the time, so I was running a business and I was a single mum all at the same time, and this is on top of having the most incredibly traumatic, dysfunctional childhood with a dad who's a cocaine abuser, huge amounts of domestic violence. I mean, I really have had an incredibly traumatic childhood, and I worked very, 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 very hard from the moment that I kind of possibly could have sovereignty over myself to create the opposite with my friendship group, who I've been friends with most of my friends since I was 18 to 21, really creating the stability that I never had. And then there I was thinking that I'd created this great life. I had a wonderful partner. I had a gorgeous son. We had a great life. We had multiple homes. And then sadly, I lost my partner, and I found that everything was turned upside down again. So I think that, I mean, truthfully, I had PTSD for 2 years, so I don't actually have any memories for the 2 years post losing my partner. But after that, I think what happened was I really, really, really realized that you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. So I became even more intentional with how I spent my time, even more than how I spent my money, because my view, and it still is the same today, is if I lose money today, I can make it back tomorrow. But if I lose time today, I'm never getting it back tomorrow.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And, you know, Shaa, your ability to reframe meaning, to go, I get to choose this moment by moment, I get to choose. And what I love, you talk about where you've come from, to not be overwhelmed in it, but to stand on it. And I think each person can go, oh, but you don't understand. I had this situation or that happened, and go, well, great. Our past is for us to stand on it, not be overwhelmed by it. And you are just this, well, you're the opposite of the victim. You're the ultimate sort of victor of just agency over your own life, but choosing you. And we spoke yesterday about, you know, there was a Glennon Doyle quote about being full of yourself. And often we talk, especially as women, you know, don't be too full of yourself. Well, I go, well, we actually need to be full of ourselves, nobody else's self. And when you say, you know, well, if I can pitch up every day full of me, and just me, not my
exactly
past. And
exactly that. And I think that if you're not going to be full of yourself, what are you going to be full of? This is such a strange concept. We should all be full of ourselves, because what else are we going to be full of? I mean, we need to be full of ourselves. And if we don't believe in ourselves, how do you expect anybody else to believe in you if we're not encouraged to believe in ourselves? And, you know, I just want to add to your point, Anne, that I've always believed the challenging things that happen in our lives, we have a choice, right? We can use them as a brake or an accelerator. You get to choose. And I chose that I would use them as an accelerator. I would use them as a driver. I would use them as a reason to change my life, not as an excuse to stay where I was. And I think you can make that choice at 8 or 80, at 29 or 36, 54 or 32. You can just right here, right now, go, yeah, I had a shit fucking upbringing. I did. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But how am I going to interpret that for my future? Because the other thing, I feel like I'm very, 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 very competitive. And so I felt like if I allow that to be a break, I've let those motherfuckers win, and I'm not going to let them win. I'm going to choose my own agency, my own sovereignty, and I'm going to win. And that's what I would wish for all of you.
Yes, yes, yes. Talk about winning. Well, my amazing Shaa, I love and adore you. As you say, there's so much we could dive and talk about here. I encourage each of you to connect in, get some of Shaa's books. This woman is inspiring, but also, that inspiring word is so weird. It's about living your true, full, wholehearted life. And when we actually realize the truth of none of us ever have anything to lose, we actually do. We have this precious life to lose if we never live it. But all the rest of the stuff that we think we could lose is an absolute illusion. So I want that emoji board absolutely lit up for the amazing Shaa Wasmund. Thank you, amazing woman. And
Thank you for having me.
If you know a book is something for you, Shaa has an amazing free program going to help us get going. I've got my next book, Enough, coming out. I'm going to be using her publishing expert process about creating this discipline, this focus, showing up. So stay tuned. I'll share with you when that is coming. It's coming out in June. But if you want somebody to kick ass, help you show up for you, there is no better person than this amazing Shaa. And let's get all those books out. The amazing Shaa Wasmund! Woo!